everything that you're experiencing right now, wherever you are, the nature of it is love. Loveliness is what is characteristic of it. Loveliness far more profound than you can imagine. And it's not separate from your hands and your feet and the room you're in and the things in the room. But you know what, like Paul, you've got to stop being so damn sure you know where the avocados are. So that you can look at what is right in the front of your face and actually see it. And know that it and the seeing of it are all part of the singular movement of conscious being, of God, of you, but not separate from each other. All the same thing. Let's go to the book. We could stop there, and you could all leave and have a radically different week from any other week you've had, just on the basis of consistently and conscientiously remembering that God is a verb. And the verb means being. And it's the movement of mind being conscious, having what you would call the conscious experience of being. And therefore, everything that you are having conscious experiences of are one and the same. The living conscious experience of being. Not being a thing, but being, living, existing. And therefore isn't foreign to you, isn't separate from you, is as totally lovable as you, is constituted of love just as you are. And so there needs to be great inquisitiveness. And you need to not be lazy. Why put off the fuller conscious experience of what? Being. Being conscious of what being is. Mind. Unconfused about its infinite conscious experience. It's why it's called waking up. Lights going on. Illumination occurring. Seeing things clearly instead of through a glass darkly. Let there be curiosity and inquisitiveness. And if you're so damn sure that the avocados are in the refrigerator when they're not, if you're so damn sure that so-and-so is never going to change, catch yourself. Stop it. Abandon that confidence, that definition, and be willing to look outside the box, because not only are you not in the box, they're not in the box either. But you're not going to see what they are until you're willing to stop looking where you think you have to look. And you think you have to look where your very own definitions tell you a thing has to be. Well, none of you would have enjoyed avocados in your sandwich if Paul had refused to look to see where the avocados were. And none of you will have a changed experience if you're not willing to look for the evidence of being in places and in styles or characteristics that you're not prone to be attentive to. Let's go to the book. The ego depends solely on your willingness to tolerate it. Simple, short sentence. What? What would happen if you weren't willing to tolerate it? It would disappear. It depends entirely, solely, on your willingness to tolerate it. You give it all the life it has. You see? As long as you're sure the avocados are in the refrigerator. You're in a box. You're in the box. You've got blinders on. And the sense of yourself that's so confident will be the sense of yourself that you'll experience. As long as you're tolerating it. As long as you're actually choosing for it. As long as you're not conscientiously trying to think a little bigger, be a little bigger, behave as though there isn't a box, behave as though your definitions don't mean anything. Your definitions will bind you as long as you tolerate them. You see? It's all about us. Every single one of us. And no, that's not Paul saying that. The truth in here is about every single individuality. And you know what? The lies about us are the same lies about all of us. Continuing. If you are willing to look upon your grandeur, you cannot despair, and therefore you cannot want the ego. If you are willing to see the avocados where they are, you cannot despair. You'll be able to enjoy the sandwich. And therefore you cannot want to think that the avocados are in the refrigerator, which is empty of avocados. You see? When you have fulfillment, you cannot want lack. You see? This isn't some spiritually deep thing here. If you are willing to look upon your grandeur, you cannot despair, and therefore you cannot want the ego. Your grandeur is God's answer to the ego because it, your grandeur, is true. Littleness and grandeur cannot coexist, nor is it possible for them to alternate in your awareness. Littleness and grandiosity, not littleness and grandeur, littleness and grandiosity can and must alternate in your awareness, since both are untrue and are therefore on the same level. In other words, littleness and grandiosity are both elements inside the box, or inside your belief that a box exists in which you are choosing to live within and function within and delight in the challenge of. But littleness and grandeur cannot coexist because the one is the non-existence of the other, you see. When you know where the avocados are, you no longer don't know where they are, you see. It's humorously simple. Again, littleness and grandiosity can and must alternate in your awareness, since both are untrue and are therefore on the same level. And another reason that they must alternate is because littleness is very uncomfortable, and so you find yourself needing to do something to overcome the discomfort. And instead of finding the clarity in which you see that the box doesn't actually exist, if instead of that you seek to make yourself feel good while still in the box, you will have to find a way to puff yourself up and to talk yourself into feeling good about yourself. And so you will have to engage in processes that will allow you to fulfill criteria that you have established that identify the meaning of success. And that is how you achieve grandiosity in order to overcome the feeling of littleness. However, the grandiosity that you have created for yourself was not created by God and arose out of a misperception or a false perception of what you truly are. And therefore, the grandiosity, although temporarily achieved, will always be lost because something built on an illusion cannot stand. And so then once again, you'll be experiencing littleness, and you will have to do something about it. And so it alternates back and forth eternally until you finally arrive at a point of somehow discovering that there ain't no box. And as I said 2 weeks ago, my birth, death, resurrection, and ascension forever undid that apparently absolute belief that everyone had been suffering from, that they were inside a box and that they were something they were not. Again, littleness and grandiosity can and must alternate in your awareness, since both are untrue and are therefore on the same level. Being the level of shift, it is experienced as shifting, and extremes are its essential characteristic. See, tomorrow Paul can go downstairs to the refrigerator expecting to see something else there that might not be there and not find it. And then he'll have to face Susan, who won't have forgotten, although Paul will like to conveniently forget, that the same thing happened the day before. And so he hasn't learned anything yet. But what that means is that there is something to learn, and there is a benefit to be had. if he will just go downstairs or do whatever he's doing without preconceptions, you see, without thinking inside a box, and to be unconditionally open to a more all-inclusive conscious experience of being. Verb. Truth and littleness are denials of each other because grandeur is truth. Truth does not vacillate. It is always true. The movement of being never vacillates. It always is. When grandeur slips away from you, you have replaced it with something you have made. A definition, an expectation, a concept, which you are giving preference to, in place of saying, or constantly being, in the attitude of I of myself know nothing. I of myself have no capacity to experience the conscious experience of being. You see, you are that. Being is what you are, and you have no choice about it. You don't have a capacity to be it. It already is you. And you can't afford to replace that simple, unalterable fact with a crazy idea that says you do have a capacity to be what you want to be what you define yourself as. And if you compulsively attach yourself to the project of being what you can't be, you will, for the time being, render yourself unconscious of what really is. And you will have this little fantasy, this little nightmare that you call the human condition. But you know what? I have to keep reminding you that the only way you can do this is by using all of the only way you can do this is by using the already existing elements of creation and providing a bias to them, applying a bias to them. You've got to distort your perception of something that is eternally real. This is important. It's a valuable thing to understand because it means that as soon as you stop applying the bias to it, what it is will register with you. It doesn't require work, it requires less work. It requires you to stop applying a bias to something that is eternally unchangeable. That's work. It's not going to be work to get back in your right mind, to see things as they are. It's going to be you neglecting to apply the bias. Again, when grandeur slips away from you, you have replaced it with something you have made. Perhaps it is the belief in littleness. Perhaps it is the belief in grandiosity. Yet it must be insane, because it is not true. Your grandeur will never deceive you, but your illusions always will. Illusions are deceptions. What? Deceptions your ego pulled on you? No, a deception you pulled on yourself by saying, I'd like to have a moment to look at the movement of being and use a capacity I have as a being to alter the course of the river a little bit. Ha ha, God. I got you to be what you weren't going to be. Now I'm somebody, you see. Waking up, let's put it this way, there is no hereafter in which to wake up. As I said last week, the hereafter is here. My presence after the crucifixion, after the resurrection, was a demonstration of the hereafter here. The kingdom of heaven that you associate with the hereafter is here. It is what you are experiencing through a glass darkly, but it is what you're experiencing. Now, you know, after the meeting tonight, Paul could have a conversation with Sue and say, listen, we need to have a little more consistency here in how we handle the food in this house. And, you know, if the avocados go in the refrigerator, they go in the refrigerator. You don't put them someplace else. And if otherwise we're going to have an understanding that every time you put the avocados where they don't belong, you're going to hear from me. And I'm going to make it as unpleasant as I can until you knuckle under and are consistent enough to put them where they belong so that you and I don't have a discrepant experience with each other. And we can have harmony because we're always putting things where they belong. We're always putting them where I have determined they ought to be. We're always going to put them where we together are going to mutually agree that they will be, you see. And now what are we doing? Oh, we are developing something for psychologists to study. The science of psychological human behavior and how to come about a harmonious experience through the practice of conscious, mindful control. You see? An infrastructure of proper behavior could begin to be established when the answer is not to improve things inside the box, but to challenge the existence of the box entirely, so that no matter whether the avocados got left in the trunk, you'll know where the avocados are when you want them. You see? Is some of this gelling a little bit more and making the truth that's in here relevant so that the experience of what God is becomes available in the simplest of daily events? I told Paul in the beginning, all of you, meaning all of what you are, all of you is always functioning. All of you is always present. And all of you is always available. Now, all of any one of you, all of what you are is creation is all that exists is some aspect of the infinitude of your what? Being. Verb. Being. Existing. It's always all available to you. Not only where the avocados are, but where the Pope is. Not only where the avocados are, but the experience of what it's like to stand on the surface of Mars. The surface of Mars is part of the infinitude of your being. If it's always available to you, and it's always present as you can have the conscious experience now. Nothing, not anything, not any aspect of the infinitude of your being, which is inseparable from God, being. Nothing of the infinitude of you will be unavailable to you. Because you're neither behind the point of perfection nor advancing toward it. You're at that point, and what we're talking about tonight is disclosing how it is that you can begin to have the experience and understand yourself therefrom, instead of from the standpoint of who you definitely think you are and how you definitely think things work, which cause you, like Paul, not to find the avocados because you were looking a foot and a half to the left. And he couldn't conceive that the avocados would not be in a refrigerator. Your grandeur will never deceive you, but your illusions always will. Illusions are deceptions. You cannot triumph, but you are exalted. Well, it's only someone little who attempts grandiosity that could feel they had triumphed over adversity, over the conditions of the box. You cannot triumph, but you are exalted. Exalted. The blinders get ripped away. You can see more. Your frame of reference is exalted. It's not tiny by virtue of commitments you're holding on to that keep you seeing in a limited fashion. You are experiencing the fuller conscious experience of being. Being. And in your exalted state, you seek others like you and rejoice with them. Uh-oh. I hear somebody saying, well, boy, that would really be nice. I would love to meet some other people who think like me. You know, I would love not to have to associate with and deal with these people who are so ignorant of the truth, because it's so much work. It's so stressful.